Welcome to episode 54 of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and in today's episode, I'm not going to be talking about any pieces that are currently in my collection, but I'm going to talk about some pieces that I'm hoping to have in my collection someday soon. So, way back in May, in episode 33, I had Bobby Valla on an episode of this show, and I interviewed him about his upcoming toy line called Action Force. Now, Bobby Valla is a former toy designer, worked at Hasbro. He worked on Star Wars figures, Marvel Legends, G.I. Joe, all kinds of stuff. He's got lots of credibility in the toy industry, and he was branching out and he wanted to do his own line of 6-inch military figures, because there's kind of a hole in the collector market right now for 6-inch military. So he launched a Kickstarter, and I had interviewed him in May, just prior to the launch of his Kickstarter. So all the secrets hadn't quite been revealed at that point in time. But I was just really excited about the prospect of this toy line. I wanted to help promote it and get the word out there. And it was great that he came on and talked to me about it, because I don't know Bobby. I had commented on another video he had made, and I said I'm really excited about this project, and he offered to come on to my show and talk about it with me, which was great. Now, unfortunately, it didn't fund. So I don't know if you're not familiar with Kickstarter. Basically, you set a goal, and you have to achieve that goal. Otherwise, the project just doesn't happen. So in his first attempt at Action Force, which I can't remember, I think he launched it in June, it might have been late May, but it ran for a 30-day campaign. So he launched around May or June, and it would have come to an end around July. So his initial goal was $170,000, and he managed to raise $91,000, so it was about 54% of his fund goal. And so when he didn't reach that, he went back to the drawing board, took a couple of months to kind of regroup and figure things out, and he has since relaunched again here in October. And so his campaign is not quite halfway through just now, but he hasn't quite hit the goal yet. He's currently at $73,751 of his goal of $99,000. So he's 74% there. I want to do what I can to help him get to the goal and well beyond, because if we can fund the project beyond the initial fund goal, there's lots of other cool figures that are going to be unlocked. So let's get right into it. So the project was first launched actually on June 14th this past summer, and I'm going to go through the figures that were initially offered. So first up you see here CONDOR, which is kind of the basic good guy trooper, and then you've got Karak, he was the leader of the bad guys, and then you've got a SWARN trooper, which is kind of just a basic soldier from a third faction. And then you've got Downrange, so he's another member of the good guys, Action Force. And then the Steel Brigade Trooper. So this was an idea that Bobby hadn't revealed yet when I talked to him before. But the Steel Brigade Trooper is basically an homage to G.I. Joe. As if you're a G.I. Joe collector of the 80s, you'll remember that the Steel Brigade was an action figure that you could mail away for. And it was kind of looked like a generic trooper, and you could create your own file card where you could choose your own military specialty and your own code name, and Hasbro would send you a personalized file card and this figure that was supposed to be you. So Bobby has acquired the name for the Steel Brigade, and it's his all-time favorite G.I. Joe character. So I think he was pretty excited to include this as part of his Action Force, and I thought it was a great idea too, because if you buy the Steel Brigade Trooper, he's actually continuing on the tradition of giving you a personalized file card with this character. So next up was the Bone Collector, who's another really cool looking villain. Then there was ECLIPSE, who is a member of Action Force and the first female of the line, followed by Trigger. So he's like a sniper, I believe, another member of Action Force. Then we've got Swarm Trooper version 2 with this very cool kind of dome helmet. Then another female figure, this is Pandora. And she was followed by the Garrison Trooper 2-pack. So you see you've got a white guy and a black guy, both with basically the same armor, followed by High Point, another member of Action Force. Then there was Eclipse version 2, so she's a little more dressed down. And then lastly, there was the Swarm Trooper 2-pack, which was just a darker repaint of the previous 2 Swarm Troopers. So those were all the figures that were available in the initial campaign, along with some weapons packs and backpack sets that were add-ons as well. So that is the campaign that did not fund. So now let's talk about the new campaign that was launched on October 18th. So like I said, Bobby went back to the drawing board and made some changes. So the first major change is that his funding goal dropped from $170,000 down to $99,000. And that's just the initial fund goal to get the project off the ground. And so one of the ways he was able to do that was to decrease the number of figures that were offered in the initial launch. So the first time around there was 5 figures. So it was the Condor and Downrange, the Steel Brigade Trooper, Karak, and the Swarm Trooper version 1. This time around he simplified it to just these 3 figures that you see here. So it's the Bone Collector, Condor, and the Steel Brigade. So right now if he only were to hit his $99,000, those would be the 3 figures that are available. And those figures are available at $30 each, and then there's also a weapons pack for $10 and a set of backpacks for $12. So if you wanted to fund this just to get one figure, you just have to pledge $30. If you want to get one of each figure, you pledge the $90, and there are multiple other options for how to fund. Now this is the pledge level that I opted for. So this is called the VIP package, and you can see it was $330 US, which for me, being Canadian, you can see converts to about $431. And then it's there'll be shipping on top of that as well. But what the VIP package offers is any 10 of the unlocked Action Force figures, plus 1 set of backpacks and 1 set of guns. Now I probably would have went for this package anyway, but Bobby was offering an incentive, like an extra gift for the first 200 people that pledged at the VIP level or higher. So I made sure to get in there right away so that I would get one of these special gifts, which I'll talk about in a moment. So having committed to 10 figures, obviously my hope is that we will surpass the initial funding goal so that some of the stretch goals will get unlocked and I'll be able to get 10 different figures. However, if we only hit the $99,000 and I'm forced to buy 10 figures out of only the 3 basic figures, I don't have a big problem with that either, because the Steel Brigade is intended as a troop builder, so I could easily buy 3 or 4 of them and have a little squad. And even though Condor is intended to be a unique character, not only does he include an unmasked head, but he comes with a fully masked head as well. So the way I see it, I could buy Condor and keep him unmasked as a troop leader, and then buy 2 more Condors and keep them displayed with their masks on, and they could be his troopers. And you could do the same thing with Bone Collector. These figures are really cool, and there's some options to diversify them, so I don't really mind if I end up with a few doubles. So let's talk about the new campaign and how it breaks down figure by figure. So like I said, there are 3 figures available in the initial assortment. The first one here is Condor. So you can see he has the unmasked head, he has the masked head, and he also has the helmet with the removable night vision goggles. So you've got multiple ways to display this figure. So if I do end up buying multiples, I can choose to display it in a variety of ways. Now let's take a look at what changed from the first Kickstarter to the second one. because you'll see there have been some changes in paint apps. So CONDOR was primarily black before, but now he's kind of green and tan, which matches actually closer to the G.I. Joe version of the Steel Brigade Trooper. Now here's Steel Brigade. You'll see there's his customized file card that he'll come with. And here's the comparison to what he looked like in the first attempt at the Kickstarter. So you see his pants have gone from black to green, but it doesn't look like much else has changed there. Now I want to talk about, this is the early bird bonus incentive gift that I got for being one of the first 200 backers at the VIP level. So I get the Steel Brigade Commander helmet, which is reminiscent of the Steel Brigade version 2 figure produced by Hasbro in the G.I. Joe line back in the day, which had a gold helmet as opposed to the typical silver helmet. So this is pretty cool. So again, if I end up buying multiple Steel Brigades, I know I'll be able to display one of them with this gold helmet, so I can make him kind of the squad leader. And the last figure here in the initial 3-figure assortment is Bone Collector. So you can see that he's got a removable bone mask, so you can display him either masked or unmasked. Here's Bone Collector compared to the original offering from the first Kickstarter. So the only major change that I see here is that his pants have gone from solid green to kind of a camo. Now here's the $10 weapons add-on pack that you can also add to your initial 3 figures, as well as the $12 pack. So that is everything available in the initial assortment if we only hit the $99,000. Now this here is a picture of the concept packaging. So each figure will come boxed like this. Although Bobby is trying something different for this Kickstarter, which was not part of the initial Kickstarter. So you'll see here, this is a troop builder with very few accessories. He doesn't come with any guns or anything. This is the Special Ops Trooper who's dressed all in black. And he comes in just a little baggie. So it makes him a little more affordable. He's only $20 rather than the $30 figures. And this figure here, he's the first stretch goal, and he was just unlocked actually today because he was not a stretch goal that required funding beyond the initial goal. Bobby had committed to unlock this additional figure as soon as he had 420 backers, because his first Kickstarter only achieved 419 backers, so he wanted to see if he could beat that, and he just accomplished that task today. So now this figure is available to anybody that decides to back the project now. They know they can count on this figure, and when I select my 10 figures, I now know that I can maybe only get 2 Condors and maybe 1 Bone Collector, and I can add on a couple of these Urban Troopers instead to fill my ranks. Okay, so now let's talk about the additional stretch goals. Now these stretch goals are unlocked as we hit different levels of investment. So the initial goal is to hit that 99,000, but if we go beyond that, additional figures will be opened up for purchase. So I got ahead of myself a second ago, and I know I called the Special Ops Trooper the Urban Trooper, but this is the Urban Trooper, who looks a lot like a certain G.I. Joe named Firefly, and this figure is available at $111,000. Now, while these figures do only come with very basic gear, you'll notice they come with a couple extra sets of hands, and they come with an alternate head, so you can display each of them with 2 different races, which I think is great, because it makes it very easy to buy 2 of each of these troop builder figures. But one thing I will mention, I'm not going to show you each one of these, but unlocked at different points in between the figures, you can unlock $10 gear packs to soup these figures up a little bit, because they are maybe a little plain as is, but here is what you would get with the Urban Trooper accessory kit. And with each additional trooper that I'll show you, there's also a matching color set to enhance those figures as well. Okay, so now let's talk about the other stretch goals. So at 138,000, we would unlock Karak, who was one of the basic figures in the first Kickstarter. Now here's just a comparison of what has changed on Karak. You see his pants have gone from green to black, but what's really cool is that his face sculpt has been updated to give him a much angrier, villainous look. Then at 159,000, we get the Swarm Trooper. So we only had concept art the first go around, but here you can see the fully painted prototype figure with translucent eyes, which looks great. So yeah, there is the concept piece from the first Kickstarter compared to this one, so no real changes. It's just now you can see what the translucent eyes look like. At 171,000, we get the Riot Trooper in blue, and there would be an accessory set with him as well. Then at 198,000, we get Eclipse, and so again, we didn't have a full version of her to show in the first Kickstarter, but here's the fully painted prototype, and she looks great. So you'll see it looks pretty spot on to the concept art they showed us the first go around. No major changes here that I can spot. Next up, we've got Trigger, who's unlocked at 219,000. And we'll take a look at the comparison to what they showed for the first Kickstarter. So it looks pretty much the same. The only difference that I can really notice is perhaps the paint deco on his pants. The camo pattern has changed. So at 244,000, we get Pandora. And at 256,000, we get the Desert Trooper. And again, there is a matching accessory set for him. 283,000, Downrange. And there's been no change to this character from the initial Kickstarter. At 304,000, we would get the Swarm version 2, which is a favorite of mine. I think he looks awesome with that translucent dome helmet. We never got to see a prototype of him for the first Kickstarter, just concept art, and I think it translates beautifully to the physical form. Now this is a new character, so at 325,000 we would unlock a female Steel Brigade Trooper, which is a really cool addition. She'll look great displayed with the male troopers. And then at 345,000 we've got the last of the basic troopers. So this is the Arctic Trooper, and again there is a white accessory set available for him. So this is what all the basic troopers will look like. So the Special Ops, the Urban Trooper, the Riot Trooper, the Desert Trooper, and the Arctic Trooper, and they look really cool together. You can build some really cool squads. Then at 372,000, we have the Garrison Trooper, which was available in a 2-pack in the original Kickstarter. So there you can see the comparison. He's changed quite a bit in color. So in the first Kickstarter, you had 2 figures wearing identical outfits in tan, but they had the Caucasian and the black faces. Now you just get the one head, and he's in a totally different color scheme. At 393,000, we get High Point. So we'll take a look at the comparison to the concept art in the first Kickstarter. Doesn't look like much has changed with him. Maybe the color of his pants, and he's gone from long sleeve to short sleeves. And then the last figure, unlocked at 414,000, is Eclipse version 2. So I don't think there's been much of a change here compared to the concept art they showed us in the first Kickstarter. Looks like there's no longer a camo pattern on her pants, but otherwise things are pretty much the same. So as you can see, Bobby has added quite a lot new options to his second go-around at this Kickstarter. But we have lost a couple of things. The first one being that the Garrison Troopers has gone from a 2-pack with 2 alternate heads to just a single figure. And then the ones that I'm sad to see go are the Swarm Trooper version 1 and Swarm Trooper version 2. Both of them had a repaint, so we had version 2s of each of the different Swarm Trooper, both in kind of a darker, kind of Night Force-esque color palette. And sadly, those things are no longer available in this Kickstarter. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see those figures sometime down the road. So that was a rundown of the full Kickstarter campaign. Here I've just grabbed a couple other shots from Bobby's website to show you some of the posed figures and some of the display options. I really think you should go check out his website at valaverse.com, and of course check out the Kickstarter and support this project, because I really want to see it funded, and I don't want to just see the basic project funded. I'd really like to get as many of these stretch goals unlocked as possible. And here's just some of the concept art that Bobby's put together. There's going to be a webcomic to coincide with this. It hasn't been released yet, but it's in the works. And yeah, it looks pretty promising because there's some really cool artwork here. Okay, so that's everything I think I have to say about the Action Force Kickstarter. I'm very excited about this project. I was really disappointed when it didn't fund the first time. Um, but yeah, I really think we're going to see it happen this time. But I'm not sure we're going to get all those stretch goals unlocked unless we get more people supporting it. Now, if you've never supported a Kickstarter campaign before, if you're a little nervous about it and not sure how it works, I did a video. It was episode 38, which was all about Kickstarters. I explained all the ins and outs and how the payments work. I talk about a number of projects that I have backed in the past, and I've always been pleased with the quality of the figures. So yeah, you can trust the process, and I recommend you check out that video if you have some questions. But the main thing about it is if you pledge right now, there's no commitment to pay right now. So if you're thinking, I want to back this, but I'm going to wait till I get paid at the end of the month, or I'm going to get paid in 2 weeks, you can pledge right now. There's no commitment. If the project doesn't fund, you never get charged anything. But if you pledge now, it helps us get closer to that goal, and then you don't have to pay until after the project funds. So by all means, if you're thinking about doing it, I would highly recommend you jump on, even if it's just for a single figure. Pledge your $30, but I think these figures are going to be pretty great. So yeah, maybe pledge for a few of them. So yeah, if you have any additional questions about this, because I did kind of rush through this, I kind of wanted to keep this video relatively short so that people will watch it. So yeah, if you have any other questions about it, please comment below, and maybe even better, send Bobby a question on his Kickstarter or on his website. I know he's really good about answering questions. You can also reach him on his social media. So yeah, I follow him on Instagram, and I recommend you do there too, because he's been adding updates pretty regularly to his Instagram account. So yeah, support this project, and yeah, like the video, subscribe to my channel, all that stuff. And I'll be back in a week or so with a regular episode where I show you all my new stuff. So as always, thanks a lot for watching.